Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video cam for just a moment. All right. All of you have registered for this because you want to learn about solving problems in the warehouse. And so the first question I have is, do you have a global business system? We're not talking about Macola ECI Globe. Nope, this is global. What is a global system? The global system helps you get your 10,000 steps by walking around in the warehouse every day. I met with a customer not too long ago, and they said that he can always tell when they have a new person walking down the aisle, kind of looking way up, trying to see what's there, just lost in the warehouse. Global systems are really a pain because your physical inventory doesn't match what the Macola screens tell you. So you look up an item, says you have 100, but you sit there and you think, I'm not so sure. Do I really have 100? So you go back and look. Go back and look. So if you like getting your 10,000 steps, maybe you don't need a warehouse system. And some of the problems, if you have a global business system, is that you're doing receipts in the system, but they're not getting recorded in a timely way in your business system. You have inventory in the warehouse, but you can't find it. Sometimes you have inaccurate bills of material. So when you produce a product, maybe it took a little more, something like that. And guess what? You're back flushing the wrong quantities, and over time, things get out of whack. There are return material authorizations that come back. Maybe people aren't doing those correctly in the system. Sometimes the sales department has giveaways, buy one, get one free, and those free ones don't get recorded. And then there's the defective or expired material that somebody in the warehouse says, oh, this is bad, let's get rid of it. Off it goes, no transactions are done. And of course, theft and shrinkage, that happens. People taking stuff home for garage sales. So I am Bob Hawk. I am the Director of Sales here at WiSys, and I am happy to have you on board today. You're not alone as a company. There are lots of companies that use WiSys now with their Macola. Good news, no matter what version of Macola you have, it's going to work with WiSys. So you can install it right now where you are and get good productivity. Even if you're thinking about upgrading to Macola 10 or something like that, you don't have to wait. Today, you're going to look at some of the out-of-the-box solutions that we have on the handheld and the desktop. But it's important to know that these applications can be modified or tailored, as we call it. You can tweak them, make them do what you want them to do. So what are these applications? The WiSys applications can be purchased either modular, so you can just buy the warehouse management module if you want, or you can get the all-in named user and get all the modules at once. So if you have questions about that, we can do pricing another time. But in the module for warehouse management, it does basically all the major things you need to get started. So receiving, label printing, moving inventory around, RMA receiving in transits, moving material for staging, cycle counting, and simple shipping. So you can bring it in, move it around, get it out. Over here on the right, you're looking at the new Agility 360 user interface. Both our RDP, or Remote Desktop Protocol, or the new Agility 360 interface, both do the same thing that you've always done. It's just another interface and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But it's really just an Android application loaded directly on the scan gun. So the first module was warehouse management. If you want to track pallets in the warehouse, we have a pallet module. So Macola knows all about items. It knows about lot numbers and serial numbers. It knows about bin control. This is a whole new layer. So if you walk out into the warehouse and you see items on pallets, you can actually record a pallet being in inventory. We'll actually print a license plate, an LPN. So anytime you move a pallet, it'll move all the inventory on that pallet. It's very simple. Manufacturing. We're going to do a little POP manufacturing today, but just know that you can do both POP and shop floor transactions with WiSys. I'm going to do the material side today, but there's also the labor side and operational reporting. Those of you that get into that, that's a whole nother webinar. But in general, WiSys is going to handle production with material and reporting all the way through. And finally, our shipping application. I'm actually going to build a shipment today, and we're going to send some things out. So a little bit different than just the pallet module. You can build a shipment at the time of shipping. You don't have to have pallet management to ship a pallet. You can build a pallet related to sales orders and ship those out, mixed items and things like that. WiSys takes care of all the paperwork, so you don't have to pre-print stuff. You can print it on demand when the truck shows up. Those of you that are doing EDI, WiSys is fully integrated with Datamase and EDI. And we also help the accounting department with billing and invoicing. And that's done through our desktop grid solution. A new module from WiSys is called the Agility Shipping module. You're going to see me use that today. I'm going to build a shipment and ship it out. In this case, you can see we're actually printing UPS labels here. I printed those to the screen. But it's a very simple, complete interface. You know, you have your shipping carriers right here, and you build a shipment. Final screen, get paperwork that you need as you go. And I mentioned earlier that you can tailor or modify the system. The user interface here is our Agility Form Designer, and when you design something, you lay it out in the Form Designer, and when you save it, it comes up and looks like that on the scan gun. So this is our traditional RDP device. It's a Windows app even on an Android device. Or if you want to run it as a native app, you can do that over here in the 360 user interface. WiSys also comes with analytics. You can build your own analytics. They have a few out of the box that you can take a look at to see if you like them, but honestly, every company I've worked with, they have their own KPIs that they want to take care of. So for those of you that have never seen Agility and how it works on a scan gun, you bring up the user interface, and it's a little different than Windows where you have your mouse, you can move things around. You have to do one thing right at the time. So that blue line, I could type on the keyboard, I could hit the lookup button, the ... and actually do a lookup, or I can scan. So what happens is on that blue line, I have to make a decision, and you scan something, and up comes the user interface. And what it does right there, it just did a validation. So behind the scenes, the worker did something right. The person doing the scanning had to have a released printed PO to be able to do something. Then we're on the item, we have to do the item number. We have to get a valid item number that's on that PO to be able to bring it into inventory. And finally, because this is a lotted item, WiSys knows we need to collect a lot. So I'm going to do that. So there's my lot number I collected with the receipt. And then I'm going to type in the quantity of the item that I'm going to receive. It says here that there's a remaining 500. So as you go, this will work its way down. As soon as I do the receipt on the scanner, if there's a label to be printed out, the WiSys label designer and print engine is hooked up here to print a label out. You're going to see me do that shortly. And the nice thing about this is you don't have to buy the label designer or print engine. It comes right with WiSys now. So if you're considering a warehouse project and thinking, how am I going to print all these labels? Well, WiSys is going to help you do that. Okay, we're going to move into the actual processing of some transactions, and we're going to do some work. So what are we going to do? I'm going to do a PO receipt and print a label. I'm going to do a put away transaction. There's going to be some document management going on, transfers, cycle counting. We're going to do a work order for POP today. And we're going to do production reporting. And we're going to do a shipment building. And then if we're not out of time, we're going to do some lot trace. So that's our agenda. All right, so on the desktop, when I open up the WiSys Agility desktop, it opens up, I have it automatically opening a KPI here that I want to look at. So this is just graphical information. If I click on open orders and I look at my open orders down here, I have a sales order here for an item ABC BL item. So this is a manufactured item with POP, and that's my sales order. Once this order gets released as a status 4 for picking, depending on what you click on here, the grids respond so you can see what on each group. I'm really not here to demonstrate that today, but I just thought I'd point that out. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the POP console. So the POP console is designed for you to do a lot of different things, wear a lot of different hats all at the same time. If I click here, I can quickly sort and move through the information. Those of you that have never seen the Agility desktop, it's designed to be like Excel. So you can filter, you can look up things. If I want to see everything that's lotted in my POP system here today, I can just filter on lots, get rid of that. I can look at different fields here. I could look at due dates. So if you're trying to figure out what's the schedule, how many orders do you have, you can look by due date. Now you'll notice that this one right here is an unreleased POP order. So when I click on the POP order itself, the components on the POP order, the bill of material, is shown down below. So this is an unreleased POP order, and it's showing me that I have a material shortage. So if you're in production, there's no reason to go ahead and release a POP order until you have the items that you need to build generally. You may choose to do what you want, but at least you know right now you're a bit short. Now, I just happen to have a PO in the system. And what I'm going to do here is launch my scan gun. And it will bring this up. I'm using an application that's provided by MCAT for me. I'm using SOTI on the MCAT server so that I can actually demonstrate what's on the scan gun. All right, so what I want to do, and by the way, let me just turn on my webcam briefly. You'll see here I'm using this webcam, or this scan gun, and I'm going to do some printing right here. So as I use the scan gun, I'm using my finger, I'm clicking on the scanner, and I have my purchase order here. So I just did that transaction you saw earlier. I scanned something. I'm going to scan an item that I'm going to bring in. It says, oh, you've never got that item before. And it wants the lot number. In this case, I'm going to scan the purchase order. It will be my lot number in this case. And then I'm going to enter the quantity that I'm going to receive. Okay, now watch right here. I get a label. So there's my label. The WiSys print engine did that for me automatically. You didn't have to send Bob out to the word processor to print off a bunch of barcoded labels. It just happens automatically. So if I go back to the agility on the desktop, and I'm just going to hit the refresh button. At the top of the screen over here, you see there's a little refresh button. And when you do a refresh, it knows now that those items are in inventory. So what I'm going to do here is just come up here and I'm going to release this pop order. So it just moved it from status U to status R. Go ahead and look at my released pop orders. This could be part of your scheduling program, how you want to do scheduling. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually print my work order. So here is my work order that I'm going to use for material picking. I'm going to say yes. And then it drops off this grid because it's now a pop order at the printed status. So one thing to think about is if you've been thinking about going to shop floor because you really want a better material model, the WiSys applications allow for something called material issue with a pop order, which will actually create WIP. So if you really want a better material plan that's more accurate rather than just backflushing, you may not have to go to shop floor to get that capability. Okay, now that I've released that work order, I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit about the document management system because it's pretty clever. All right, if I'm going to look at purchase order receiving, and I look under this portion right here. So think about this as a little bit like Event Manager. These are areas where you have events. So if I look at the events under purchase order receiving, and I come down here, I can see that I have activated an agility label. It starts with AL right here. You can see AL for agility label. And what does that look like? So you can actually see your agility labels right here. And you can use the agility label designer to create labels or modify the existing ones. So I can hook that label up right here. It's an enabled label. You can actually change those properties and turn them off, and you can say prompt for the number, how many labels do you want, things like that. But the other interesting thing here is public and private. A public label means everybody is going to get the label. If I make it private, then only certain people or an individual might get that label. And that's actually probably more important when we look down here at the shipping section. And I have different labels available for different things. In fact, if I look here under cartons, I have different carton labels, and some are private and some are public. And so what that means is if you have compliance requirements, then you can set up your labels. WiSys will memorize those, and when you go to print, you'll get what you need. You can also get full crystal documents. So here is a packing list. So It basically has my default printer, which is my little one, but it's a big printer for this one. But you can see here, you can lay out a nice crystal report. This one actually comes with the system, and then you could change it, add your own logo, things like that. All right. And you can make those public and private. And so when this label prints, if I had it private, I could, if I switch this one to private and I want it to be only for Walmart, then it says this document is assigned. And then you come in and find Walmart and you tell it, I want this document only for Walmart. So I'm not going to do that today, otherwise it won't print, but you get the idea. So there's lots of things all the way down to invoices are in the system here. Okay. Let's take a look at an item transfer. So there's a number of different transactions here. And if we look at a transfer, it's a pretty common, it's easier to use my finger than the mouse. So if I have an item and I want to transfer it from bin to bin, I'll take this item and I have a default warehouse and I want to transfer it from bin A200, still keeping it in the same warehouse, and I'll transfer all of those items to the WIP bin. And it wants to know the lot number. So I physically am going to do what? I'm going to scan the product that I'm actually picking up to move, and then the quantity. So I'll go ahead and move 100 to the WIP bin. So if I looked in Macola right now, boom, that transfer has already happened. If I want to transfer them back, same idea, no big deal, from the WIP bin and back to A200. Catch the lot number again. Off I go. Quantity 200. Do that again. And there's the transfer right back. So the point here is that it's very easy to use the scanner to really do physical transactions. Part of the problem with global systems, go back and look, is people just get busy and they don't do the transactions that they should. And when you turn on lots and bins, it just makes more work for everybody. But if you can get rid of that work by using a scan gun, then you really get some momentum out in your warehouse. Let's take a look at cycle counting. Everybody needs to true up their inventory. Now, before I get to actually doing it, let's go take a look at where we are with cycle counting. So I have a batch in the system, and here is where my batch is at right now. So I created a batch for all the items that start with A. I have them in an area where I can count. So let's take a look at this one. Here is the item, and it basically says I need to count this item. It thinks there's 1,000 there. Now the person doing the work doesn't need to know that. But it's important for the controller or the accounting manager to keep an eye on what's going on. So for instance, we go here and we do a cycle count of an item. So I'm going to select my batch and I'm going to go to the bin that I'm going to count. I usually have them start with bin number 1 and keep going. So in this case, I scanned the bin, and I'm going to count the item that I'm going to find there. And it wants the lot number. Notice it automatically found the tag. If it doesn't find the tag, it's going to generate an extra. And so I'm going to make a critical error here. I'm going to count 10. And so I'm going to come back to agility. We'll refresh the screen, and you can see that I counted 10. So that's going to create quite an adjustment. And the controller, the accounting manager, inventory manager would say, don't know about that. I think I'd like you to recount that item. So what we do is we send a message out to that guy, or when he comes back with his document that he's been working off of in some way, please go back and count that item again. And we're going to count the correct number. Okay, and so we go back to agility and we recount. And we're going to get an extra number down here. So we got that corrected by that count. So if we look at that item, maybe we can see what's going on here with this particular item. And we got it counted. And that will make the adjustment later. Okay. And let's move into the work order side of the business. And in this case, let's go back here, and we're going to go back to the POP console. And I want to look at my work order, which is 389. And here's what I need. So I've got 389, and it has these items that need to be issued against it. So we can go ahead and use the scan gun, and we're going to issue some material. So I just use my finger to swipe left and right, and I can change menus. And by the way, all these components on the scan gun, they come to you based on your login and what you're granted the ability to use, or maybe you have a role. So I'm going to click on Pop Issue, and I'm going to hit my work order, and I'm going to scan the first item that I need to go get and issue, and the lot number, and the bin. And so I believe I believe those are in A200. And then we issue the quantity that we want, 432. And we've just issued the first component. You notice here, if I make a mistake, if I scan something that's not validated against that order, like I'm making a mistake scanning the POP order number again, it comes back and tells me that that's an error, which is a good thing because the worker gets corrected as they go versus having the boss come out and have a problem. So let's go ahead and scan another item and the lot number. And that one is in B100. And again, I need 432. And if you recall, my pick ticket actually had the bins that were recommended to go to. So that's how I know where to go. And the lot number and the bin. And these items are at the dock. So think about these being a hot item at the dock. Okay, so let's go back to agility. And if we look at the order itself, you can see here the button for issued components is hot. And I can actually drill down and see the items that have been issued. So I've got my material right there. And you can actually see Joe who did the work. That's kind of handy. And on the production reporting side, we just switch over here. And I'm not going to do pallet production today, but this is where you could actually make a full pallet of product. I'm just going to simply do production reporting and my work order. And I'd like to show you another little advancement here with WiSys, the lot builder. We have a tool inside of Agility called lot builder. And if you look here close, the 15 characters for the lot number are made up. Let me just get a little closer for you. So this is my work order number. And you'll see it's padded with zeros, but here's the work order itself, right to here. And then the rest of this is the Julian date and time. So lots of people use the Julian date. And so this, if you'd ever get a problem, you can actually look and see, oh, it was on this work order, and this will tell you the date and time you did it. So we'll go ahead and enter the quantity we're going to produce. And when I produce them, they're going to go to the finished good bin automatically. That's a default. Now, I just printed another label. You saw me do that before. But if you look right here, and I got to go smaller on this. If you look right here, you can see that my printer has been defined. So if you have a scan gun at Work Center 1, Work Center 2, Work Center 3, and you're doing work right there, you can actually have it print to your specific printer. As long as the printer is in a reasonable area, you could share the printer, but if this is line 1's printer, you're going to get line 1 labels right there. That's pretty handy. So I've gone ahead and produced my product. And we're going to stop for just a second. And we're going to go back to the Agility desktop. So you can see I have a lot of icons on my desk. One of them is the Agility Fulfillment Manager. And this is just one of the components in the Agility desktop, but I like to run it standalone. Because when I think about the warehouse and I think about the shipping department, they really don't want to see all that other stuff. They want to get their work done. So this is a touch screen application. If I had a touch screen, I can hit the refresh button and auto refresh. I could hit new shipment, things like that. Let me show you where we're going. I'm going to bring up an existing shipment. So this is what a shipment looks like. It has a shipment number, and you can have multiple sales orders on a shipment as long as they're going to the same address. In this case, you can see my order number is the same, 975. And I have pallet 1, pallet 2, and pallet 3. Now, this application is designed to be used right here if you want. You can hit new shipment, add a pallet, add a carton, add an item, etc. Or you can do it mobile. So let's drop back and let's go back to the Agility desktop one more time. And we're going to look at sales order management. So I have all my open sales orders here. And the one I want to work on today is this particular one right here, order 995. When I entered this sales order, I hadn't made anything, but you watched me make something today. So if I want to fill my sales order, I can fill my sales order right here. And so it was as if I went right into the system, brought up the sales order, and set it up for the quantity to ship and all that, and got back out of the user interface. So you can see that it makes it pretty easy. I visited a customer not too long ago. They spent 3 hours a day trying to figure out what they could ship based on what was produced and received. And if I hit this button right here, it takes about 1 minute, and it would go through all my open orders and fill everything it could find. So to save time, I just did one today, so you can see how that works. Once I get that sales order filled, I can then use the same interface to release the pick ticket. So here's my picking document. You can see it knows where the material is. It's in the finished good bin, and you can see the item that I'm supposed to get. Okay, that order has been authorized for shipment. Now let's go to the handheld. The first thing I want to do is I want to move some material. So I'm going to do a simple transfer. And I'm going to take that finished good item that I made from my default location, and it's in the finished good bin, and I'm going to move it to the staging area. And the lot number, I have to make sure I get that right. And the quantity is 432. Okay, so that material is moved from finished goods over to the shipping department. Might have had to go through a quality step, that sort of thing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually build a shipment. So let's go ahead and get a little bigger here. And I'm going to do pack pallets. So the first thing I want to do is hit enter. And it will generate behind the scenes a new shipment and a new pallet number. We're going to find out what that is in just a minute. So what I'm going to do is scan my pick ticket that I've got. And I'm going to scan the item that I want to ship and the bin that it's coming out of and the lot number. So this is a physical process. I'm catching everything that I'm putting on that pallet as I go. And it just so happens that 144 is all that fits on that pallet. Now, if I needed a pallet label, you'll notice that there's a little pallet or little printer up at the top here. And if I needed the label, if it was required for this customer, I would have had that automatically print. In this case, I'm going to push the new pallet button because this one's full. I'm going to stay on the same order. I got more of that item, and I'm going to get it from the same bin and another 144. And the lot number and 144. So I made a mistake, but the scanner saved me from a bad demo. And I'm going to do it again. Okay, behind the scenes, what's happening, we'll go back to the fulfillment manager, and we'll type in our shipment number, and it's actually built this up behind the scenes. If I have a problem with one of these pallets, I could just come up here and I could delete the shipment, I could delete the package right here. I can correct things. If I want to take a pallet off that shipment, I can take a pallet off that shipment and give it to somebody else. But it's all taken care of in this user interface. The status of this order right now is not shipped. And it's directing me over here to a hot button for LTL. It knows the order header is a LTL shipment. I could always change it if I had to with the ship via. If I was allowed to do that, I can make a change down here. So there's always ways to correct things. And you can actually see additional lines to pack and things like that. There's a lot of information about the shipment right here. Now, this shipment can just sit for a week. As you're manufacturing product, maybe you have to start on Monday making stuff. And as you make it, you stage it, you make it, you stage it, you get it ready. And then eventually you call for the truck on Thursday and they come pick it up. When they come pick it up, all you have to do is push the LTL button. And you'll get your last screen for paperwork, roadway, truck number 123, and my pro is 123. I've got my gross weight in here automatic out of my item master. I'm going to hit the print button. So when I do that, I'm going to get my packing list. And I'm going to get any other document that I need, like the bill of lading. I get my short form bill of lading here. There's lots of different documents that you can hook up. And then it disappears. So 436 is right here. It's now status S. Let's just go into Macola and take a look. So I'll just load Macola real quick. And we'll go to sales orders. And we can see here's the order header. It shows it's shipped. And we've automatically updated these line details. So we know the tracking number for roadway. And that's all inside the Macola user interface. So working out in the warehouse, you're connected back to the Macola data model to do a transaction. I'm just about to the point where we're going to finish. And we're going to do one little thing here. We're going to do some tracing. So maybe you get a phone call that a certain item has a problem. So we're going to look up that item. And I'm going to say to and from on the same item. And this will show me the transactions done with that item number within that given date range that I want to look at, so to speak. And you can see here, here's the sales order right here that went to a customer. And it's showing me some information. Up at the top in the ribbon bar, when I click on like pop, the pop dialog button pops up. If I hit an OE button, the order dialog pops up. If it was already posted, you'd see the history button. But in this case, I can look at the order. I could validate. Maybe the same item went to multiple people, but only one person's calling you to complain. And you can look at the detail right here. Here's the shipment. Here's who it's for, billing information, etc. Here's your customer. So I've got that detail right there. And moving backwards through the system, let's go look at the POP order. If we go to the POP dialog, we could then find out what went into this production. And we could look at the components that have been issued. So here are the components. And I can see all the detail about these components. If I want to see the lot number on that C binned item, I've got that information right here. Okay, so it's 8081-00. So maybe I want to look at that item, and we'll look at the lot number. And I can now see that that lot number was issued to the pop order, and it came from the PO. If I have more of that product on hand, I might want to take that C-binned item and place it on hold. So that's just like going into the Macola user interface and clicking the button at the lot detail to put that lot on hold until we can clear up the matter. If you have somebody doing an audit and you need the detail and you have a lot of detail, you can easily dump it to Excel. Okay,